on the phone line here this morning, talking about all the great things the legislature has been up to recently. It's 35th District Representative Drew MacEwen. Morning, Drew.
Good morning, Jeff.
How you doing?
I'm wonderful. Yourself?
I'm doing pretty good today. And talk to me about some of the things that you've been working on here in the legislative session.
Yep. So we've been voting away here for the last week and a half or so. Today is the cutoff. So each chamber at 5 o'clock today, the final bill has to be brought up for debate, and then that'll end each respective chamber's session of passing its own bills, and then they go over to the other chambers. We kind of hit the reset button. We're here at the halfway mark, and a lot of bills will scream a painful death at 5 o'clock today that won't make it off the floor, and that'll be the end of them. There's interesting to note with the cutoff here, there was 1,100 bills introduced in the House, and so far 355 have passed off the House, and we'll probably do, I'm guessing, maybe 20, 30 today. So it just gives people an idea.
Wow.
And a lot of those bills, out of that 1,100, I mean, a lot of them were never heard in committee. They never had a shot, but it gives you an idea of the volume that we do deal with. And I'd say, again, just guessing here, out of the 355 that have passed, I'd guess it's maybe half of the bills that made it out of committee would be my guess. It's today's an intricate dance, and you try to get whatever you have going. I'm very pleased, and I had a key piece of legislation passed the other day, and that was delinking the state end-of-course test with the graduation requirement.
Yeah.
And I think this is a huge piece of McCleary, not in the sense that it creates a whole lot of money. It saves the state about $20 million. It saves local districts about $7 million. This doesn't solve that piece of the puzzle, but it's a piece of the overall McCleary piece in that we're getting rid of these mandates, and the tests that these are taken is at the high school level. And it was about 20 years ago, the legislature, in its infinite wisdom, said, we should make these tests required for graduation. And they were never designed to be that. These are federally designed tests that were really used more to measure and compare school districts across the state, across the nation. And somebody in the legislature had the great idea that, let's make these a graduation requirement, too, while we're at it. And they just were not designed for that. It doesn't necessarily test the curriculum that they're taught. And it was a very strong bipartisan vote, 92-6. Goes over to Senate, and we've been working the Senate already. Even though that was a very strong vote, it took a lot of work to get it there. I'm glad that that's done, and moving forward. And and I also just want to give a shout-out to my seatmate, Representative Griffin. He had his bill ending the statute limitations on sex crimes. So from now on, there is, assuming this passes the Senate and the governor signs it, this bill would and there would be no statute of limitations. So if you commit a sexual crime, you will live in fear for the rest of your life of being convicted of that. And I think that's a good piece of legislation. I know that was deep and personal to him, and I'm just happy for him that got that off the floor as well.
Yeah, both of your guys' bills are moving out of the House with major majorities going through. Do you think, on the Senate side, are you hearing anything that, at least with your bill and the testing, do you think it's going to pass through the Senate?
Well, I've been working the Senate since day one on this. I've gotten assurances of a hearing. That's always the first step. So it'll be heard in committee, and then we start. The next step will be to work to make sure it gets voted out of committee into the Senate floor. So, and then subsequently brought to a vote in the Senate. With this particular bill, there is strong support for it, but there's also some strong opposition, even though the numbers of people that are opposed to it aren't as the number of those people aren't as big, but they are very powerful voices down here. And so I think this could be one of the negotiated pieces that gets us out of here at the end of the day. So it's going to be in play throughout, but I'll just keep working the normal progress with it, and hopefully to get it through the Senate.
I'm going to ask you about the latest Wikileaks CIA thing. People maybe be using their Samsung TVs as microphones, and this is now out across the world. You got any thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, I was listening to your conversations last night at home, Jeff. It was rather interesting. This stuff, wow. it's.
I mean, what do we need to be worried about here? The people that are giving this information to WikiLeaks, the fact that the CIA is supposedly doing these types of surveillance, or?
Well, and there's two things to this. I mean, one, the CIA is tasked with, providing intelligence to our nation's leaders, and so, do they have programs to gather information? Absolutely, they do, as they should. The question is, do they have that right to gather information on U.S. citizens? I don't believe they do, unless an individual is engaged in with a foreign entity or person to sabotage the United States, and that changes the game. But I don't believe that they have the right, or the NSA or the CIA or anybody has the right to arbitrarily listen in on any citizen's conversations. They certainly need to have the means to develop these technologies. And, I'm fine with them eavesdropping on our enemies all across the world. I do have concerns and want to make sure that our citizens' rights are protected as they should be, unless you put yourself in a position that would jeopardize that. But then the WikiLeaks thing, yeah, that's... I served in the Navy, had a high security level clearance. I was on the nuclear side, and I take that very seriously. And it's disturbing to me that we have these leaks, and it opens up a whole lot of things. So I find the whole thing a convoluted Pandora's box that I'm not comfortable with on a number of levels.
Right, yeah. Well, Drew MacEwen, thank you so much, 35th District Representative here in the great state of Washington. We'll talk with you next week, okay?
Sounds great. You have a great day.
You too.